And some other breaking news to tell you about this morning. We have reports of clashes at the protests outside the Cal State Board of Trustees meeting going on today. Trustees are considering raising tuition. KCAL 9's Cara Finstrom is in Long Beach with the latest for us. Cara?
Yeah, it's been a tense morning here outside of the chancellor's office. I want to pan over and give you a look at what we can see from this vantage point right now. Police estimate there are about 200 to 300 protesters out here. They are upset about a proposed tuition hike for the fall. I can tell you that a short while ago, a group of protesters who had gotten some of the limited number of seats inside actually were escorted outside by police. They were taken out during a recess in the public hearing because it had gotten so heated and some obscenities were used. And our Soraya Fidel, who is inside, tells us that some pepper spray was actually used and things got a little bit rough. You're also taking a look here at some video, I believe, of some of the other demonstrators outside here today. What is being looked at here today is an increase in tuition at all 23 campuses. It would be by $498 for the 2012-2013 school year. If it's approved, and here's the reason these students are so upset, it means that tuition will have more than tripled since 2001, when it was $1,600, to the proposed 2012 tuition of $5,970. And here's why CSU officials say that may be needed. They say state funding has been slashed in recent years, that during this year alone they expect cuts of at least $650 million and possibly $750 million. And they say the tuition increases they're proposing would only pump a small part of that, about $138 million, back into next year's budget. At the same time, they say they have been cutting programs, classes, overall operations, but they say they're running out of options. You can see the students gathered here. There are also some organized demonstrators here, some of them with Occupy LA and other groups who are calling for reforms by big banks. They say they want to see taxes, they want to see levies put on some of the big banks to raise some of the money that's needed and not fee hikes for students. So it's not clear how many of these protesters are actually students and how many are from organized groups that have also come in. But again, I can tell you that a short while ago, police did escort out some of the students and protesters who were inside because it had gotten volatile inside, and apparently some pepper spray was used as they got them out of the doors. The very latest on this vote. So far, the Finance Committee has approved what would essentially be asking the state to step in and provide some more funding. If the state doesn't provide that extra funding, it would mean that those tuition fees would go into effect, fee increases would go into effect this fall. They're in a recess right now, but when the full board comes back, they'll vote on it, and that full vote is needed in order for passage. And you can see some of the folks here behind us don't want to see that today. Reporting live, Cara Finstrom, back to you.
All right, Cara Finstrom reporting live, and we want to continue our coverage of this event right now as we go to our Soraya Fidel. She's on the telephone. Soraya, you've been in the middle of all those students. What's going on out there?
Sandra, unbelievable what has really unfolded out here in the last 10 to 15 minutes. Once that 10-minute break was given, the protesters, activists inside, the students who were inside chanting, no more Wall Street, corporations must pay, banks must pay, were forced out of that room and escorted out. But it got really volatile. We saw batons that were in the hands of officers. We saw pepper spray that was being sprayed. A lot of us started coughing inside. We were right by the front doors, and within minutes, the glass door here shattered. I'm not quite sure how that happened because it was all within seconds where some of the violence started unfolding. Now we are seeing dozens of officers inside here with the California State Long Beach police who are now in riot gear. I saw an officer who had a bloody arm. We believe that may have been from the front door that was shattered, but I can tell you it was a good 30 seconds or so where all of a sudden it got very ugly. Emotions were high. We saw students who were handcuffed, we believe to be students, the protesters who were handcuffed, dragged from the floor. And we are basically inside looking out at through the front doors, the glass front doors, where all those protesters were taken out during that 10-minute break. And it just got very intense. Emotions are extremely high. But what unraveled in terms of the batons in hand, the pepper spray that was sprayed, and the glass that shattered, and then seeing an officer with a bloody arm was just unbelievable as to what is happening once this 10-minute break was imposed.
And Soraya, does it look like the meeting is going to proceed? Is the meeting back underway now, and are they going to go ahead with the vote?
Dave, as from what I can see, I asked an officer if the 10-minute break was still ongoing as the meeting happened, and he just looked at me and nodded his head, shaking like no, like no, basically everything is just being stifled. I mean, we are on a wait and see. I mean, I don't think any of us expected all of this to happen, but once the obscenities were being touted out by the protesters inside the meeting, that's when the 10-minute break was imposed. And I think a lot of us are just, I can tell you as a reporter, emotions are high. You're a little nervous. You don't know what's going to happen. But that pepper spray, I tasted it. I started coughing, slightly choking a little bit from it. It looks like right now they have about 8 or 10 Long Beach police officers who are here, about a dozen or so that seem to be in riot gear, manning those front doors, looking out. And those protesters, activists, students are now just outdoors, away from the doors once the Long Beach police officers arrived. We're pretty much held hostage of sorts inside looking out. So I'm kind of inside behind all of the police who are manning those front doors.
All right, Soraya Fidel